The 2023 Mercedes-Benz CLA is one of the compact sedans in the Mercedes lineup. And this is going to appeal for our more budget-conscious consumers that want a mix of luxury with a very favorable price point. Now, you know how Mercedes does, they're going to give you some options. So the more options, the more money. So just keep that in mind as you look at this car. Now, this particular model behind me has the AMG package, and inside you're gonna find a mix of leather and Alcantara seats, MBUX or MBUX, depending on how you wanna say it, infotainment system, as well as some stylish interior accents and some ambient lighting that you'll be able to take advantage of. Now, today we're gonna talk about the exterior features, talk about some of the interior features, and then we're gonna go ahead and take it for a spin. So stick around to the end of this video to find out how much this CLA 250 is gonna cost you. This is slick. So my first impression of this is that it's very sleek, it's very nice, it has really good design elements, but I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. So go ahead and hit the comments and let me know what your first impression of this CLA is, and be honest, be brutally honest. But I'll just tell you this is what I'm thinking. So I think that this has some really nice hood lines in it, and I think it gives it a more of a sporty look, more of a mean look to it, and then combine that with the fact that it's so low to the ground. So this car has this low center of gravity, it's complemented by these 18-inch black wheels, and then you have this grille in the front with the big Mercedes-Benz logo that honestly is synonymous with all of the newest vehicles that Mercedes has been putting out. So you're not gonna find too much differentiation between this and all of the other vehicles in the Mercedes-Benz lineup. I will say that you have some nice lights and styling going on down here. So this has the automatic LED headlights. So if you're driving at night, they'll pop on really easily. And then there are some black accents. So if you look at the side view mirrors, they're black. And then you have some chrome trim that kind of goes along with the door handles as well. And then you have this all black top. You have a pretty big sunroof up there. So if that were to be popped right now and you were to be driving around, it gives it an even more sporty look and a different look. And I think that really adds to the car's overall curb appeal. Whether you're sitting there with the sunroof down or you're sitting there with it back, it's gonna have a different look to it. And I think that's really good. One other thing that this vehicle has that's pretty cool, and I think most Mercedes-Benz vehicles have this, is you're gonna find a camera right here in the front. This is gonna be for your parking sensors and all of those. And then you're gonna have another set of cameras that are gonna be in the side view mirrors, as well as a rear parking camera at the back, but I'll show you that once we actually get back there. But I think overall, from a design standpoint, this has been designed very well. It looks really good. It gives you that luxury. So again, for you price conscious consumers that are trying to get a vehicle such as this is a good entry point into the Mercedes-Benz world, and you still get all of the common luxuries that come along with this. Let's head to the back. All right, so here at the back of the CLA 250, you're gonna find a few things. So you're gonna see some lighting back here that's very complimentary to this vehicle. I don't think there's anything much about it that really stands out to me. I just think it just fits perfectly with this car. So nothing else to say about that. But you have the CLA 250 badging down here. You have the Mercedes-Benz logo that's chilling right here, and this kind of serves two purposes. So one purpose of this is to actually pop the trunk, so you can kind of press your thumb on that and use that to pop the trunk and open it. And then the second use case for this is going to be the rear view camera. So once you put this car in reverse, this is gonna kind of fold out, and then there's gonna be a camera that pops out, so that way you can kind of, see everything. It's, standard backup camera. But after you kind of drive off and you get going, it closes right back up. And I think that's pretty cool. It's slick. It kind of keeps it nice and tucked away and out of the way. And you know me, when those things get dirty, they're super hard to clean. I wouldn't say super hard to clean, but they're just annoying, especially when it's raining and stuff like that. So the fact that it kind of has some covering and all of that, I think that really adds to the overall design of this. Now, as I move a little bit lower, you're gonna find a mix of some piano black trim as well as some more like a flat black trim, and it's kind of more plasticky, and it kind of gives a cheap vibe. I know this is an entry point Mercedes, however, I think that this can be cleaned up a little bit more, and I think that the piano black trim should kind of shine through when you look at this. Another thing that I really don't like about this vehicle is the fact that they kind of went the SUV route on this, so the tailpipes are actually underneath the rear bumper of this vehicle, and these are actually faux tailpipes. So there's literally nothing in there. They might as well just be handles. You can stick your fingers all the way in there and they're gonna stop at a point. But I think overall it looks really nice. I just think that they should have just kind of made those real and not the actual faux version of these. I think that kind of makes the car feel a little bit more cheap. But I will say, when you turn this car on, it does have a little bit of a kick to it. So you kind of hear a little bit of a noise and it sounds really nice. Now, moving on to the interior of this trunk, you're gonna find that there's actually quite a surprising amount of space back here. I think you can fit probably a couple suitcases, some groceries. It's very functional in terms of trunk space. So I think that as a buyer of this vehicle, that's not something that you're gonna have to worry about sacrificing. Now, let's go ahead and head to the interior of this vehicle. Now, performance-wise, this CLA 250 puts out 221 horsepower and 228 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty nimble if I do say so myself. Now, speaking of nimble, this vehicle also does 0 to 60 in less than 6 seconds and has an EPA estimated range of 25 city and 36 highway, which is going to be great for our eco-conscious consumers. The interior of this CLA is very stylish, it's very luxurious, and one thing that's prominent and sticks out to me is the red stitching that's all around the vehicle. So you're gonna see some on the dash, you're gonna see some on the door, and then all of that is complemented by some of the silver or chromish interior accents that you're looking at. So you're gonna find those on the door panel, you're gonna find those on the steering wheel, you're gonna find those on the vents all throughout this vehicle in different areas. So I think that really adds a nice lap of luxury feel on the interior of this vehicle. And then you have some pretty decent storage. So you have some storage up here, up front, then right behind that you have some cup holders, and then you have some pretty generous center console storage space as well that you can take advantage of. The other thing that you have is you have some cup holders that are down here, and you can kind of flex those as much as you want to, so they kind of pop down or pop out. If you have bigger beverages or smaller beverages, you can kind of configure it to have to fit either one. And then you have some USB-C charging ports in here, and there's also a 12-volt charging port. So if you don't have a USB, you can always plug in a aftermarket device to go ahead and help charge your devices and things like that. Now, all of the climate control settings are gonna be down here on this bar, and then the only other thing that's basically a non-climate control setting is going to be your hazard lights that are gonna be located here. On the right and left side, so the driver and passenger side, you're gonna have these climate control settings where you can essentially increase the temperature on your side, or you can decrease the temperature on your side. And when you do that, it's really cool. At night, the vents actually will turn red as you're turning the temperature up, or they'll turn blue as you're turning the temperature down. So I think that's a really nice added feature, and I think I don't know, it just looks good, it feels good, and it makes me happy whenever I use it. So I think that's something that you guys at home will really like and take advantage of. So next up, you have this infotainment screen, and it's kind of split into two parts. So you have the driver's side, which is going to be more of your dash, and you're going to see your various vehicle settings here, you know, and that's configurable as well. So you can configure that to kind of have it look however you want to and kind of have a different feel to it. And then on the actual infotainment side, this is going to be the latest MBUX or MBUX, however you want to say it, infotainment screen, and that's going to be compatible with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. And then if you look at this, it's pretty responsive to the touch. There's a couple ways that you can use this. So you can either use a touch screen and you can kind of swipe and press whatever you want to. And then there is the trackpad that's down here that you can leverage as well. And that has a wrist rest, so it's a little ergonomic, so you won't have to worry about having any wrist problems or any strain or anything like that. And then the other two areas where you can kind of control these screens simultaneously are on the steering wheel. So you have these trackpads here. Again, I know I've reviewed a few Mercedes in the past, and I said these kind of look like the old like BBM scroll bar. So those are there. So the one on the right hand side, you can't help me right now. Stop it.
I'm sorry.
Hey, stop. Hey, it works. Anyway, this car is smart. So I actually just pressed one of the voice control buttons, and started to talk to me and ask me what I wanted. So maybe we'll get into that later. But basically what I was saying is that you kind of have these two control options here on the steering wheel to control both screens. So that'll come in handy while you're driving and no issues there. Now, as we go back to this infotainment screen, one of the things that's pretty cool that I'm actually the third time around noticing more and more things. If you go to menu options on the screen, such as comfort, you'll notice that there are a couple sub menus down below. So if I were to press on the comfort sub menu, it's going to take me to a sub menu that includes seat comfort as well as ambient lighting. So I can quickly change those settings as I'm sitting in this vehicle. And then the same thing goes for things like media, where you can kind of pop that up and it'll basically take you to your available devices and you can do that device configuration. And then there's Mercedes Me and apps. So if you were to click on that, it's going to pop up another screen and it's going to have settings for your Mercedes Me ID and your services such as accident recovery and digital assistance and emergency calls and geofencing, etc. So I think this really has a good list of options and sub options that you could take advantage of that are very easily accessible from this menu. So I think this is very well designed. I think it's very intuitive, and I think it's going to be relatively easy to use for a new BMW customer or even existing customers or consumers that are going to purchase this vehicle. Next up, and last but not least, before we go ahead and move on to the back, is the seats. Well, the seats and the sunroof. I'll show you what that looks like from the interior. So the seats are a mix of leather, Alcantara. So it kind of has more of like that leather feel in some parts as well as that micro suede in some parts. The seat kinetics also kind of adjust your seat to make sure that it's modified for comfort as you're sitting in the car. So as you're sitting down, you'll kind of realize that the seats will kind of move and adjust randomly. And yeah, you're not tripping when that's happening. It's literally adjusting for your comfort. Another thing I like about the seat design in this vehicle is that the seats go all the way up. So I reviewed a BMW iX recently, and it has similar seats or a similar seat design. And I really like that because you don't have to worry about adjusting the headrest or anything like that. So it's more of a fixed position seat. Again, the seats overall are comfortable. The Alcantara really the seats really hug you. The Alcantara is really soft and plush when you sit on it. So it just feels really good. So I would be comfortable taking this vehicle on a road trip or just having it be my commuter car or my everyday driver because the seats are so comfortable in this vehicle. And then last but not least, as I look up, you have this pretty sizable sunroof. So it's not that, you know, small rectangle or square that you're used to in most vehicles. Actually, it's like a halfway panoramic sunroof, and it looks really nice. I think that this just overall adds to the elegance of this vehicle, adds to the aesthetic of this vehicle. And I think that this is something that, again, consumers will enjoy, just kind of given all the modern luxuries and creature comforts that Mercedes has included in this vehicle at such a low price point, which I'll tell you what it is later. All right, so as we sit in the back here, you can see that there's quite a decent amount of space. I won't say that this space is going to be synonymous to your atypical four-door sedan. This is going to be a lot more compact. So right now, the front seat is kind of up straight and a little bit more forward, but if you get somebody that's going to be taller sitting in this front seat, it may not be as comfortable from a knee room standpoint, and you can't really stretch your legs out too much. They pretty much hit up against the seat, and that's pretty much all you have. So for me, this wouldn't be a comfortable ride if I were to go on a 2, 3, 4 hour road trip and have to be cooped up back here and even having someone sitting next to me. Again, for smaller adults or children, I think this is going to be a great ride and a great option to just kind of take advantage of these seats and sit back here. But for me, it's going to be a big no, dog. Other things that I want to point out are the behind the seat storage. So you kind of have a little bit of that here. You have some vents back here, but you can't control any of the climate control settings in the rear, so you're essentially at the liberty of the passenger and the driver up front. You do have one USB-C charging port back here. And from a design standpoint, you have a similar seat design to the seats in the front where they're not really adjustable with the exception of the headrest in the middle. So it's kind of just modular, well, not modular, but it's kind of just one standard seat, and it's very comfortable. You have the mix of the leather and the Alcantara back here. You have the red stitching that I mentioned before that I called out. So that's again on the door panels and on the seats that are back here. And you have some more of those chrome accents or those silver accents that are still synonymous back here as with the front of the vehicle. So I think overall, continuity wise, this looks really great. One last thing I'll point out before I get up out of here is this armrest. So this armrest is just a regular armrest, right? Like it has the leather in there, it's fine, right? But when you actually pop out the cup holders, these are a little unique for me. I don't think I've really messed with these or seen these before, but basically they kind of just open out like this, and they can kind of flex to the different sizes of drinks that you have. But I think it's really interesting. I think cool design, but again, I think a little over-engineered. But hey, if you like it, I love it. But let's go ahead and take this for a spin. All right, before we get started on this drive, a couple things that I want to just call out. So on the menu options, there's a thing called themes, and then there you will see things like trip or experience or efficiency or lounge or standard. And then there's even another option that has a plus sign that says create theme, and you can utilize that to create whatever themes that you want to have. So the themes basically coincide with some of the menu options, some of your instrument cluster options, as well as just some vehicle information. So for a prime example, if I were to select experience, what happens there is I'll start to see a yellow ambient lighting kind of pop up in here, and then I'll see things like torque and just engine performance and battery voltage and boost pressure and kind of all of these random engine and vehicle settings, as well as just a mirror of that over on the dash side, on the driver's side. So it's pretty interesting. It basically changes all the ambient lighting and the menu options. Again, like I mentioned before, it's pretty cool. And then kind of getting into some of the safety features, you have the 360 field of view that I mentioned before. So you have sensors all around this car. And then you have the park assist cameras and all those different things. So you can option into all of those different assist features. And I believe there's a lot of driver features that come standard with this. And then this car also has the the shifter that's on the steering wheel. So I'm very familiar with that. I actually enjoy that. I think Mercedes does this very well. We're gonna get going here. So I know I talked to you before about some of the performance aspects of this vehicle and the fact that it does a 0 to 60 in a little less than 6 seconds. So there are a few driving settings here. So you have individual, you have sport, you have comfort, you have eco. I'm actually gonna put this in sport right now. The only thing that you kind of feel with the car being in sport is it's a little bit more punchy. So you'll start to feel, as soon as you step on that accelerator, you're going to be just off and moving off to the races. So that's the only thing to note with that. Overall ride quality, again, because this vehicle is so low to the ground, you're going to notice, see, look, so yeah, you can do a pretty good takeoff in this. But again, going back to ride quality, because this kind of sits so low to the ground, it's not a super firm suspension, so you don't necessarily feel everything. It's still a little tough, a little bumpy, a little unpolished in some areas, if you will. The cornering is great. I think it just handles bumps pretty decently, and the ride quality is not bad. The cabin is pretty quiet, so you know, you're able to hear me clearly. You can take calls and meetings and things like that in this vehicle. But other than that, it comes with a barrage of safety features. So you have lane keeping assist, lane departure assist, forward collision warning, you have pedestrian detection. So a myriad of safety features is what's going to come with this CLA 250. I think that if you're in the market for a Mercedes and you want luxury, you want something that's going to be affordable and it's going to be well priced, and it's also going to be efficient on the road. As I mentioned before, you got 36 highway on this. So I think this is going to be a well-balanced vehicle, both for price and all of the other creature comforts and things like that that are going to come with this vehicle for the budget conscious consumer and the eco-friendly or the eco-conscious consumer. So I encourage you to go ahead and check this vehicle out whenever you get a chance.